Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. Before we get too far into the video, if you would mind hitting the like button, that really helps to get my channel promoted, and I do appreciate that. I also love it when people leave comments, so if you have a question about the video or a suggestion for a video, if you want to tell me how you do things or just say hi, those are all great, and I do appreciate the comments. So today I'm going to do something with a little Druzy marquee shaped stone, and I'm going to have two accent stones, and I haven't decided which ones. I have two choices. I have these little oval tourmalines that are faceted, and I have these little square synthetic rubies, both of which were given to me by Bobby, who's one of my patrons. So thank you for that, Bobby. But I haven't decided which ones I'm going to do yet, so we'll decide in a minute. I think either one will look good, but I'm leaning towards the oval ones. I was going to angle them in on the piece towards the center of the stone, the other stone, and we'll see how that looks. But it's going to have a simple band that's basically a spiral, and we'll see how it turns out. I'm also going to try out a new soldering surface that one of my followers, Flying Chef, sent to me. It's a Cool Tools soft fiberboard, and we'll see how that works. It's one of those kinds of pads where you can push things into. This type of setting that I'm going to do for the center stone on this one is going to have some little vertical prongs, and so we'll see how it works for setting that up on this one. Before we do that, though, I wanted to thank some groups of people. First off, I'd like to thank my patrons, and I have a new one, Nancy D. Thank you for signing up. I really appreciate your support. I think that you'll find that the people over there are a super nice group of very talented people who are willing to share their knowledge and appreciate yours as well. So make sure to introduce yourself to them on Discord, and I think you'll find that they're great. So thank you for signing up, and thank you to my previous patrons as well. I really appreciate your support. I probably couldn't do this without you. The other group is my YouTube subscribers. We just passed 20,500 subscribers, which is awesome. Thank you for that. I love the wonderful comments that you guys leave. I occasionally get something quite moving that somebody's been re-inspired to start doing this again, or it's helped them to pull out of a depression they've been experiencing, and things like that are really moving to me, and it makes me know that I'm doing some good here, so thank you for that. Thank you also for the super thanks and the buy me a coffees. That really helps with the cost of materials these days. So, all right, well, let's get started on this ring. Okay, this is one of my design idea sketchbooks you can get on the merch store. This particular one, I put a wire gauge, American wire gauge to inches to millimeter conversion chart, which I find useful sometimes. Some of my European and overseas followers have suggested that this might be a good idea. So there's also some other ones on the store as well that have different charts on the back. There's a fractions of an inch one to decimals to millimeters that I use all the time as well. And what I really like about them, though, is this grid pattern in the background, because it helps me to draw better pictures since I'm not terribly talented at sketching. But it also lets you keep a nice record of your projects as you go. So here's what we're going to do today. So this is a little Druzy marquee. It's about, what is it, 16 by 8, I think, if I remember right. Yeah, 16 by 8. And it's got a titanium, a vapor deposition coating on it to make it extra sparkly with some iridescence to it. I usually get the natural ones, but this was a gift, and I think it's kind of pretty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a piece of 12 gauge square wire into a spiral like this, and we'll mount this at the center, but the two ends of it are going to spiral back up and point towards the stone here. And the different stones that I thought about using, got these little synthetic rubies, and they're about 3.5 millimeters, I think. They're quite pretty, and I could put those right there in bezels, like that, pointing towards them. If I did, I feel like maybe I would do it with the points towards the stone, maybe one of the points towards the stone like that. It's kind of diagonal. That's one option. The other option are these little oval pink tourmalines. They're almost purple, kind of. And these are 3x5s, I think. So we could do something like, either just run them like that, where they kind of point outwards. That would be pretty, or we could turn them inwards like that a little bit. That might be kind of fun too. I'm leaning towards these ones for some reason. I do like the squares. Maybe I'm just lazy and don't feel like making square bezels. Because those are a little more challenging, especially with sharp points like this. So I think we'll go with these ones today. You can tell me in the comments whether you think I should have gone with the other ones or not. I'm curious to hear your opinions. So, but I think before well, let's make one of these little bezels. I'll make the other one off camera so you don't have to watch me do the same thing. And then we'll make the little prong setting for this. So, and this is that Cool Tools soft soldering surface that's sort of fibrous looking. So, but it is definitely softer than the solderite pads that I normally use. So we'll see how it works for putting some vertical prongs. Okay, for bezel, this is such a tiny little bezel. I think I'm going to use some thin stuff for it. I made an executive decision and I decided to use the thicker bezel. So I'm using 26 gauge. Whoops. That wasn't brilliant. Okay. And I normally use 3/16 inch tall, but I cut it a little bit narrower because I certainly don't need that much height for these little stones. So, I'll file a little better though. And I'm going to create a step bezel. And to do that, I'm going to use some 18 gauge round wire. And I'll make a little ring that fits right inside of the bezel after I make the bezel for this. So, people ask me periodically how to make little tiny bezels like this. And it's pretty much the same as doing a bigger one. You just got to use... You can do it less with your hands and more with your pliers, you know. That's a bit big still. Boy, I just keep flicking my stones out of the way. I am having a bit of a clumsy day today, so I'll do my best. That's pretty close, I think, so you got to be a little careful. It's going to try and turn sideways on you when you do this. And I want it to be snug, but not so snug that I can't get it to sit right in the setting, you know. We'll try it there and see how it looks. These are pretty well calibrated stones, so I may just cut another one the same length as this one, and then I'll file them both. If I look a little wind blown today, it's because it's pretty windy out. I think there's a little bit of rain moving in. Which I suppose it's springtime now. Okay, I'll set this one over here for now. I keep that extra in case I mess up, which has been known to happen on occasion. I'm still thinking about doing a live stream. I was going to do it on Twitch, but I might start on YouTube and see how that works. My biggest issue is I've never done it and I don't know how to do it. And I want to have two camera views like I have for this one, where I have my computer facing me and then my other camera off to the side. But I don't know how to do that. So if anybody knows a good video to watch or anything that would help me to figure out how to set it up, that would be nice. So if you know anything, let me know in the comments, because I have some routine stuff I wanted to start making for shows this summer, and I might just live stream it on. If you're new to my channel, I use hard silver sheet solder generally. Occasionally I use something else. My flux is a liquid flux that I dribble on with a dropper bottle. My torch is a Silversmith model. It's their acetylene air torch. It draws in atmospheric air through there to mix with the acetylene in the hose, or in the nozzle here. And it's only just got the one acetylene tank. It's not as hot as oxyacetylene, but it's not as cold as propane. So you get a little bit more heat than that. And it's great for silverwork. I really like it. I'm really not good at keeping track of little tiny stones. You'd think after I swept them onto the floor and searched for them for an hour that I would learn my lesson, but that's pretty good on size, I think. I think we'll work with that. Out of there. Clean up the top and bottom. Somebody asked me the other day why I didn't use a bezel mandrel. And I do have an oval one of those, but not every oval is the same. So sometimes I find them useful. And I might, get it relatively close to the shape, and then you can fine tune it. But I didn't have one of those for years, and so I kind of never got used to using one of those. And then there's all sorts of things like that that are nice to have, but not, 100% necessary. You can get by without some of those things. I like what I'm seeing here, because it's not, it's stuck in there before when I didn't have it quite shaped perfectly, but now it doesn't, so I think I got it pretty well. And I don't see any space around it, which is good. You want it to be snug, but oh, there we go. You have to stay in there. Yeah, that'll be okay. I think it's a little bit. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, let me find a little 18 gauge round wire. I probably have some scraps laying around here. Here's one. And we'll make a little ring in here. Normally with faceted stones I'll make two to lift it up enough to get the pavilion from poking through the back. But these are really shallow little stones, so I don't think I have to do two. Then I can file the bezel a little bit shorter to make it fit nicely. We'll see how that works though. So we'll make a little oval, it'll fit right in there hopefully. There's a lot of ways to make step bezels, and this is just one of them. You want to make sure when you're making these that you get them to where they lay nice and flat. Otherwise you'll create a platform for your stone that will be crooked. And that makes setting your stone really hard until it fits in there perfectly. That way you don't end up with a little gap on the side like that. Uh-oh. Oh, it bounced right back right there. How weird. I'm going to put this on the table. That'll be okay. Let's set him off to the side for the moment. Let's solder this bottom in. I already have some solder there, so I should be able to just, let me first make sure it's sitting all the way down flat, because it's snug. And then we'll set it on a piece of solder here so that when we heat it, it just draws the solder right up in there. Thank you for all the birthday wishes the other day, those of you who watched that last video. Oops, boy, I'm really fumbly fingered today. Okay, you can see it's got a nice clean platform on the back there. So we'll set that to the side and I'll make another one. Okay, so I got this stone ready to go. And we need to use some 16 gauge square to create kind of a marquee shape. And I just so happen to have some 16 gauge square here. And what I did was I wrapped it around the ring mandrel until I got it pretty close to the size that creates a curve that matches this curve on this stone, like that. And so I'm going to cut a couple of pieces out of there. The stone's going to sit on top of these, so I want it to be just the same size as the stone, because I'm going to put prongs going in around it. That's pretty good as far as the curve goes. Let's see about this one. I think this one needs some shaping. Yeah. Probably good enough. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to file this straight across these two until I have a flat surface. You can use your miter vise jig if you have one of those. I was originally thinking I was going to do a marquee amethyst in the middle with something on either sides. I struggle with matching stones sometimes. I don't always have a good sense of what goes with what. Hence the way I dress. Let's see how we're doing size-wise and everything. Need to take just a little bit more off each side. That's pretty close. I think once I have it soldered together, I could round the tips down a little bit. Let's solder those together. You could just set some solder on top of here, but I do something called pick soldering that I find pretty useful. It's where I pick up a little bit of solder, and once I have the metal up to the proper temperature for that particular type of solder, you touch the solder right where you want it to go, and as long as both pieces are at that temperature, it'll just jump right on there. And it's a super efficient way of delivering solder to where you want it to go. And once you kind of get the hang of it, it speeds things up, and I think it's easier to get solder where you want it to be. And so if you're interested, I'll put a link up there for you. I have a video about it. Give you the basics of how to do it. It takes a little practice, but I think it is really a useful stick. So I jumped the gun on that one a little bit. If you do it right, it just jumps right on there. So. Let's clean up the top here, Skosh. I can't hold on to anything tonight. I think that's workable. So now we need to put 4 vertical prongs, and so let's kind of decide where we're going to do that. Okay, so let's try out this new pad. Normally would use a magnesia block, but this is good timing because my magnesia block, I need to buy a couple of new ones because they're getting pretty beat up. So these need to stick up just a little bit above stone. So I'm thinking if I cut them about, oh, I don't know, 15 millimeters or so, 5/8 of an inch, somewhere in there. Let's cut 4 of those. I would say that worked reasonably well. It does kind of smell bad. So let's cut off the bottoms. If you have some kind of soft surface like that, doing this sort of simple prong like this is not too hard. It's just easy to do when you can push it right into something soft. I suppose, I've never really tried it, but I suppose some of those soldering clays where you can kind of pack it around things would probably work as well. That's kind of what their purpose is. Okay, so that'll be going in there like that. That looks pretty decent. Of course, we'll cut those shorter when we get to that stage. So I have my bezels, I have my prong setting. Now I need to figure out how long of a piece of wire I need here. And I have this piece of 12 gauge square that I found, and I think it's probably long enough. We can kind of choose what size we want to make here. I'm just going to give it an initial wraparound. Square wire has that tendency to twist on you, so it's always good to try and fix that while you're going. I think this piece of wire might be pretty close to what I need, honestly. I guess I should have measured it, but if I did it like that, it'd be about an 8. So I'm thinking, you know, this is going to be soldered to the middle one, like that. And I want these to be, these little bezels are going to kind of go. Ah! If we had one of these going inward, I want it kind of going like that. If that's the case, we need to cut it off about right there. Right there. Okay. So let's cut those off. And now, since I want to, I think these are going to have to come outwards a little bit too, aren't they? Just a skosh, maybe. So I may need to file this into a little bit of a cup shape. What I was doing though a minute ago is the bottom of this, I want it to rest above that band, and then the other one's going to be soldered right to the top of that. So I may have to play with the configuration, but I want these pointed inwards like that, I think. So I'm going to, first I'm going to, I think, file them flattish, straight up and down, kind of like that. Hopefully not filing into that too much. And you can either use your half-round jeweler's file on the round side to do this. I'm just going to probably use my rotary tool to round that out with an abrasive wheel. So I decided to use a third hand in order to attach these. So I'm going to solder this one on first. Let's see if we can't get that in there. I've got it angled inwards a little bit. It's held pretty well, but it may move on me. If it does, I'll have to reposition it. See if it even stays in place when I flux it. There's always a chance when you're doing something like this that it will shift a little bit. And if it does, we'll come up with a different plan. Most of the mass in this one is in the band. And it's also got this third hand which soaks up a lot of heat, so it may take a minute to get everything up to temperature. Third hands can be useful, but they do soak up a ton of heat, so sometimes it makes it take longer to get the solder to flow for you. Let's see how that works when you cool it off. Do not have a good solid solder joint on there, so let's try the magnesia block and see if we can get with that here. I can at least push this bezel down in there now. It's definitely on there more solidly. The question is, can we do the same on this side? I really have no idea if this is going to look good or not. It'll be an interesting experiment. In my mind, it's going to look good. So I think I'm gonna cup the bottom of this a little bit so it leans inwards, so this sits nicely on that top of this curve. And then I'm gonna pre-melt some easy paste solder on here, and then we'll just set it up to where I can just heat it to the point where that flows again, and I think we'll be good. So looks like I inadvertently soldered that to the edge right there, so I'll have to use my jeweler saw with a little tiny blade to cut that loose. I like that. Let's do that. Sometimes you just gotta say carpe diem, right? Okay, real quick, let's see if we can get that to solder. Okay, I set those two little tourmalines on the side, and I cut this down just a little bit. Let's make sure he's sitting in there all the way. And then I'm just going to bending these over a little bit. So I'm going to cut these off. Normally, if I was setting faceted stone with prongs, I would cut these off about midway up the girdle facets, but I'm just going to kind of make sort of an arbitrary decision here, about like that. Just want to have enough to get a grab on the top, but not so much that it covers up a lot of stone. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my rotary tool with an abrasive white wheel and taper these down so that they're thinner and come to a point. And then I'll push them down the rest of the way and clean it up with a finer wheel. So, all right, well, I will get final pictures of that after I'm done, and we'll call it a day. Right, well, that was the marquee ring with the accent stones. I hope that you enjoyed that. If you did, make sure to hit the like button before you go. And I'd love it if you take a moment and go over to my main channel page. I have 470-ish plus videos, and I think you'll find that there's almost certainly something else that's interesting to you. I have content that's good for beginners as well as advanced people, and there's tons of projects, so check it out. Make sure to subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to hit the video description down below. There's some important links there if you wanted to get yourself one of those nice design idea books where you can sketch out your ideas and keep a record of them. Those are there, and there's a number of different designs for those. So there's a link for my Patreon if you want to find out more about that community. And there's a link for my newest ebook, which is a guide to last year's video tutorials and includes extra information about each, as well as materials list, difficulty rating, things I thought about the project as I was doing it or afterwards. So it's a useful guide to all those videos as well as a link to each one. So it's a great resource and a great way to support my channel. So thank you in advance for that. All right, well, thanks for watching today. Take care. Happy silversmithing.